Hi, I'm Katie,
I'm Amanda.
and you're listening to S Files.
Today we're going to be talking about the murder of Teresita Basa. This case is also known as the voice from the grave.
Teresita Basa was born in the Philippines in 1929 and moved to the United States in the 60s. She was a respiratory therapist in Chicago at Edgewater Hospital. She was described as quiet and unassuming, yet she was murdered on February 21st, 1977.
So let's set the scene for this. In February of 1977, she was found stabbed with a kitchen knife and she was set on fire under a pile of clothes and a mattress. She was also posed to be naked as if she had been raped, but afterwards in the autopsy, there was no evidence of rape. In the crime scene, because of the fire, one of the only pieces of evidence that survived was a note that said, "Get tickets for AS." So it just had initials. The home was also ransacked and all her jewelry was missing. The firefighters were called at around 9 or 10 and they were alerted about smoke coming from her apartment, and that's how they found her.
So the suspects were the initials AS. Then nobody was able to figure out who that was.
Yeah, they didn't find anything else that had the AS, and they didn't really, I feel like they didn't really go around asking about that either, because they would have found out.
They would have found out, the coworker and all that. And truthfully, there was no physical evidence besides that, which is why I see they got a dead end. But truly, there was no suspects except the boyfriend that she had, which she was seen arguing with, and that was about it for the suspects.
So after that, obviously, they started an investigation, and one of the last people that had talked to her was Teresita's friend, and she mentioned how Teresita had gotten off of work that same day at 5:30, and then she talked on the phone with her friend for 30 minutes before she hung up once she got to her apartment, and said that oh, I gotta hang up because there's someone arrived or whatever. And it was a man, but the friend didn't know who it was.
Yeah.
So the police, apart from that, they knew that there was a guy there, but they didn't really have any concrete suspects.
Yeah. And because of the fire too, it destroyed a lot of stuff.
The evidence wasn't there. But Teresita didn't really have any enemies. Like you said, she was quiet and unassuming, so there was no need for her to be murdered. No one was suspected of going to do that because she was minding her own.
Yeah, she had no enemies or anything like that.
And there was nothing else that they could really use as a lot of evidence. So they kind of just left the case there for a bit.
It hit a dead end for sure.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until more than 5 months after Teresita's murder that we had Remy Chua and Jose Chua go to the police and tell them that they had information for them.
Yeah, and Remy Chua and Jose, well, they were a couple that worked with Teresita at the hospital.
Yes. They weren't friends. They were just obviously co-workers. However, the way that they had found the information out had shocked everybody. It's
this, most of the unsolved cases are the interesting ones, but I feel this one, even though at the end it was solved, the way that it was solved makes it so interesting.
Yeah, it's so paranormal criminal case. It's
it's perfect for starting October, for starting Halloween.
Yes, it's spooky season for sure now.
Mm-hmm.
So throughout this entire time, Remy was having nightmares about Teresita and her murder, and again they weren't close, so it was seen as kind of odd at first. Why am I thinking about this constantly? Yeah. And after that, Jose came home. And he found that Remy was asleep, and he was okay, that's fine, until she started screaming. And then, obviously, as a concerned husband, he ran over and was like, what's going on? And she was still sleeping. And she was sleeping, and he didn't know where the scream had come from until she started sleep-talking in a voice that's not hers. It sounds
because if I was Jose, I would have ran out of there.
Stop playing. No, that's so scary. Like, what do you even do? Like, are you messing with me? Are you not? What's going on? Pretty wild. And so imagine, like, you have Teresita talking to you through another person, and you're like, okay, this is kind of freaky. And she starts telling him, like, a man murdered me, came into my apartment, and she reveals to him who did it. That's when he finds out, and she goes, it's Alan Showery. And he's like, well, what the heck? Like, what's going on? Mm-hmm. And then she's like, okay, he murdered me. You have to tell the police. She's begging him, like, please go and tell the police this. And then his wife wakes up with no recollection of what happened. She's like, what's going on? And then that's when he explains to her. And they get kind of freaked out about it.
I would have, like, anyone would have freaked out. Imagine, like, if you were like, oh, cool. That would have been weird.
That would have been funny if she's just like, oh, yeah, like,
totally, that happens all the time.
What do you mean?
But he didn't end up going to the police to tell anyone anything. So that's when the second possession / like channeling happened, where Remy once again channeled Teresita's spirit, and Teresita was like, like, why haven't you gone to the police? Like, I told you about my murder so you could go to the police, and you just have not gone.
Yeah, like, I need justice, man.
Yes, she was, like, claiming that. She was like, what are y'all doing? So that's when Jose was like, no, like, I haven't gone to the police because I really have no evidence other than, oh, yeah, my wife was possessed. Like, I mean, understandable. Like, how are you just going to go to the police and be like, no, how do you know this information? Oh, no, yeah, my wife was possessed by a spirit.
Yeah, you know how it is. Concrete
Always
evidence.
Happens. Concrete evidence, for sure. You can take this to court. So since Jose was like, no, I don't have any evidence, so I didn't take it to the police yet, Teresita's spirit was like, okay, so this is what happened, gave him more details on the murder, and said that Alan Showery had stolen her jewelry, like, when he murdered her, which is true because all the jewelry was missing from her house, and she said that Alan had taken it and given it to his pregnant girlfriend. So she was like, so if you go to see his girlfriend, she has my jewelry, and she was like, she said that her cousin could verify that that was her jewelry because her cousin would know her jewelry.
Yeah, and in the end, that's like the only like concrete piece of evidence they have, and that they were able to use. Insane.
Honestly, like, imagine a ghost solving her own case. She was just like, look, guys,
I had to do it myself.
If you want something done right, do it yourself.
Exactly.
So obviously Alan Showery, then the notes, AS.
Yeah, it all made sense. That was also like another piece of evidence, I guess.
Yeah.
You can argue, like, who else has that initial?
So the police went, they ran a background check on Alan Showery, because Jose did end up going to the police after that last possession. And the police ran a background check on Alan, and they found out that he lived near Teresita, and the co-workers confirmed that he was going to Teresita's apartment that same day to fix her TV. So then that's when they went and they talked to Alan.
And so, of course, as any good murder suspect does, they deny the murder. And he denied even going to her apartment. No, officer, I don't know what you're talking about. Until the police tell him, we have some evidence that kind of points towards you. And then he kind of starts to fold. At that time, too, I think is when they got the girlfriend to bring the jewelry in. Or was that after? I think
he was saying, no, it wasn't me. I wasn't even there. Like, what are you talking about? And then once they heard that, because obviously he wasn't going to confess on his own, but once they heard that, they went to the actual girlfriend, and they went and they saw her jewelry, and they brought the cousin to verify if that was Teresita's jewelry. And the girlfriend said, which is kind of funny, the girlfriend was like, oh no, yeah, this jewelry was a gift from him for like Christmas. It's like a late Christmas present. But like it was all murder and stolen.
How messed up is that to find out? Like, yeah, my boyfriend got me this gift, and it turns out, no, he murdered someone and stole it. Like, oh no.
Like, oh, how nice. You went out of your way to get me this. Like, really out of your way.
Yeah, you did too much, actually. And so, yeah, and then after that, they were like, we know you stole the jewelry. We have this note that's like, it seems to be in reference to you. And then he confesses to the crime. And he's like, no, I did go to her apartment and I did murder her.
And he confesses, like, all of it, like, everything, even, like, staging her, like, naked on the bed, trying to make it look like a sexual assault. He even confessed to doing that.
Yeah, it for sure wasn't like in the moment, like a crime of passion, because he went
like
in.
He planned this.
He planned this. He set the apartment on fire. Like he was ready.
Yeah, and I feel like he just did that to like throw people off, cause like, why are you killing someone, staging it, then like setting them on fire? Like it's like a bunch of stuff to like just throw people off.
It's a lot, it really is. He could have staged it as like a break-in or something. Yeah. Because like, it was ransacked, but if you would have broken into the house before, like, or after killing her, like, it would have, a robbery gone bad.
Yeah. But,
This is turning in,
like, how to get away. Beyond.
This podcast is going to be like, how to get away with murder instead.
Like, damn, this is not they did wrong. He did not plan this out that well. He planned it out, but not that well.
Not enough,
So, yeah. But Teresita and him they had like a nice relationship, because Teresita knew that he was in a tough financial spot, and that's why she was even like allowing him to like come over to her house, because he would do stuff for her like around the house, like what he was doing that day, well, supposedly fixing her TV and stuff, like little stuff like that around the house. She would like pay him a bit, like tip him well to do that stuff, because she knew that he was like in a tough financial spot.
And that's apparently like what the motive was for him. He's like, oh, I knew that she had money, so I was gonna like steal, like rob her jewelry, take her money, all that. But at the same time, it's like she's tipping you generously, which is how he found out that, like, she can afford to give me this money. Why don't you just keep helping her out and getting paid? Now you're going to jail for murder.
He just got greedy, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then, obviously this went to trial, because he did confess. But once he went on trial, it was like 2 years later, I think.
Yeah, it was like 1979.
Yeah. All the evidence pointed to him. I mean, but what was the evidence? A no.
Yeah, there was like no other suspects. They really weren't like
it was
searching
like,
too hard.
All the evidence was like a no, and the confession.
There was no DNA.
His confession and the confession of the witness, which was the victim.
So she did play a big part in her
own case. But once they got to trial, Showery Allen, he was like, no, never mind, I did not do it. I just said that I did it because the police was pressuring me.
Yeah, like threatening me and my girlfriend, so I felt like I needed to confess.
He was just like, no, I didn't do that. And then he actually said that he had been out with his girlfriend that night, and that he I don't know, he went to dinner, I think,
and then they played darts with friends or like neighbors or something. So like he had formed an alibi after the fact. So.
Yeah, he was like, no, my bad.
I feel like he totally should have come up with that like before, like now.
Yeah, like why did he confess if he was just gonna take it back?
Yeah, there's no way, man.
I don't know. So then the trial ended because it was like a mistrial because of that new like thing that he brought up, like, oh no, I have an alibi. Because I mean, none of the evidence that they really had was concrete except his actual confession, which he then took back. So then it ended up being a mistrial, and it ended in January 26th of 1979. But then a month after that trial, Showery pleaded guilty again, like
for the second time.
Yes, for the second time, while he was waiting for a new trial. And this was like against his lawyer's advice. Like they were like, don't do that.
This makes me think like Teresita came back and was like, you have to confess.
I feel like Teresita was haunting him or something, and he was like, no, I can't do this.
Yeah, like the guilt, like it was too much, and he was like, okay, I'm guilty.
I'm guilty, I'll do it. My bad. Yeah, but it was definitely against his lawyer's advice, and he was like, no, yeah, I actually did it. But I feel like it's so dumb to like.
Because he probably could have gotten away with it.
He was going back and forth. Yeah, because there was no evidence. Like, he was going back and forth with it, like, oh, no, yeah, I did it. And then he was like, no, actually, I didn't. Just to then, in the end, be like, yeah, I did it.
Yeah, we could have done this the first trial and gotten this over with.
Like, wasted so much time. So then, finally, he was sentenced to 14 years in prison for the murder, the arson, and the robbery. But he only served 5 years.
Because of parole.
Because of parole.
Like, that's insane. Like, such good behavior.
It must have been great behavior, like,
He
for
was
murder.
MVP of the prison, you know?
So he got out in 1983. And, you know, I don't know, he just lived life after that, I guess.
And then the spookiest part.
The spookiest part that some sources say, especially like a reporter that, you know, was kind of investigating this case and going over it and stuff, and then they wanted to talk to Alan. So they were trying to track him down, and they tracked him down to New York, but the last time he had ever been seen or heard of was in the 2000s. And when he was like 70. That's the last time anyone ever heard of him, and it was in New York. No one had seen him again, so the reporter was not able to find Alan.
Yeah, so either he died or, you know, Teresita came and
Yeah, but like
got
if
her
he
revenge.
died, they would have been able to like
They would have
find
found
something.
records of like a body and like, you know, a death certificate and all that.
Yeah,
so.
but they didn't, so I don't know.
He went off the grid, you know.
Maybe Teresita came back.
She got him good this time.
Maybe she did. So, I mean, what do you think? Do you think it was Teresita?
Ooh, I mean.
Do you believe in ghosts?
That's a good one. Sometimes, yeah, like, you know, it's kind of.
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes I feel like. Well, I believe in ghosts. Like, I feel like there's like some good evidence. Sometimes.
Yeah, like there's certain moments where you're like, yeah, that was definitely like some sort of like a spirit, I'd say. Like, not ghosts, but like spirits and stuff. Like the good ones and the bad ones and all that. Like they're just lingering sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, I think who else would have known all that information? And I guess like the officers figured it out after, because after he had confessed, they figured out that he had left the apartment, came back, and she had let him in. And then when her back was turned, she was locking the door, which is when he choked her, like brought her to the living room, stabbed her, and then like set the scene of the crime. So she gave the details to, like, who else would know that her jewelry was missing, you know, unless the officers like went and
that his girlfriend would have it.
Exactly. Like, why would you think that he did? Because typically I feel like you're stealing something, you pawn it off and you get money for it, because like I feel like in the end that was his goal, was like
to get money, so he should have done that.
Yeah,
I mean, but maybe he only gave like 2 pieces of jewelry to his girlfriend and the rest he pawned or something like that.
Yeah, it was probably something like that. I'm pretty sure it was something like a jade pendant and like a pearl ring or something like that that he ended up giving to her. So it's true, like how much jewelry or money did he end up like taking and like selling? And it's pretty odd. Like, I feel like it could have been. What I don't understand is because some sources were saying that Dr. Chua never like talked to Teresita, didn't know her like that. And I'm not saying he couldn't have recognized her voice, because I guess if you work with someone, you maybe see them, you hear the voice. But how did he know that it was Teresita? And even if she was like, oh, like, I'm Teresita and I'm here to tell you about what happened to me.
I mean, but I guess also like if she goes and she, I don't know, channels her spirit through Remy or whatever, and then she's like, oh, I was murdered like this and this and this, and I mean, maybe she even said like, oh, I'm Teresita, but also like, I mean, how many other people were murdered from the hospital?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, at the time, that was probably it, so they were like, oh, it's Teresita.
Yeah, it's gotta be. So I feel like in the end, it was most likely her, like being channeled through her, and like.
Because also, how would they get all that information? Because I did see other sources saying like that people speculate that maybe it wasn't Teresita, maybe it was just like her family kind of getting together and forming, like getting all this evidence, and then not knowing a way to kind of like say like, oh, we got this evidence, and instead just putting it on like, oh, the spirit of Teresita. But I feel like if I had the evidence and I had a way that I actually got the evidence, I would just go and say, hey, look, I know this for a fact.
Yeah, because I feel like saying, oh, I was channeled by Teresita, that kind of like debunks whatever it is. Like, are you sure about that?
No, the fact that the police actually went and investigated this is kind of crazy to me.
Yeah.
Like, they were really at a dead end and they had nothing else.
They were like, you know what,
for this case, and they were like,
for funsies, let's go.
Like, it won't harm me.
Yeah.
So we might as well go check.
And that's true, because it's like, who else would have known? And also, why would Remy and Dr. Chua just decide, like, okay, we're gonna say a spirit possessed you? Because I understand if, like, they were friends and they're like, oh, I know she was murdered and I know all this stuff, I'm gonna put it like this so they believe me. I don't know. Like, there was no motive for them to tell police or, like, pretend like a spirit channeled them.
Yeah, because they weren't close to her.
They weren't close, yeah. They weren't, like, trying to get justice for her or anything. It just kind of happened to them.
Yeah.
A little spooky, actually. At any moment, just some, like, wrongfully...
Yeah, like, why did they pick... Like, I wonder if it was Teresita, which I think it was. Like, how did she pick them? Like, she was like, oh, Remy. I'm going to channel myself to Remy. Maybe she just had that vibe.
Yeah, and that's what I wondered, too, because, like, yeah, she's from the Philippines, and then, like, Remy was also from the Philippines.
Oh, maybe
so,
it was that.
like, maybe, yeah, like, she felt, like, yeah, like, the connections,
yeah.
and she was like, okay, like, I feel like you'll help me out. And I heard, I don't know if this is, like, accurate, like true or whatever, but I heard that Alan Showery was kind of, like, harassing, like, some, like, the nurses and, like, respiratory therapists and stuff at the hospital. And I don't know if he, like, specifically targeted, like, the Philippines, like, the Filipinos and stuff. I don't know. Like, that's just what I heard. I don't know. I don't know, but it's just weird. They felt like some sort of, like, bond, this connection. They were like, you're help me out,
Yeah. I feel like it was her. I feel like it was definitely Teresita.
If it wasn't Teresita, who else would it be?
No, yeah.
That's the real...
But, like, this is a perfect case to, like, start off October.
Yeah, it is.
It's like everything. It's murder. It's ghosts. It's unsolved / but also solved. Because
come on, like,
if you don't believe in ghosts, you're not gonna believe that it was Teresita.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, he got convicted. Like, he did it.
But yeah, that was the evidence that they had. Hit that in his confession.
Yeah,
and I feel like that's also why he got such little years, and because, like, for murder, 14 years, I feel like is a bit
not
long.
a lot.
And also then getting out 5 years.
Yeah, but, like, for the lack of evidence, like,
I think it was pretty good.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, because he might not have even gone to jail at all because there was, like, really no evidence.
Yeah.
Not concrete enough to, like, life in prison, for...
Especially, I feel like in 1977, like...
They just weren't trying.
They're like, no,
it's okay.
It's fine. It was Teresita.
Yeah. I believe you. Yeah, that's the weird part of it all, I guess.
But I think afterwards, like, in some things, it actually mentions the investigator that was on the case, right? Was, like, what's the name? Statula? Yeah, Statula. It mentions him and how even him, like, he did all this investigation and he did this case and he brought Teresita's, I guess, witness statement, which, I don't know, the victim's witness statement as evidence, but even he was a bit iffy about, like, the whole thing.
Yeah, honestly, I wonder, like, you think they got, like, a Ouija board out in the courtroom and we're like, Teresita, if you're here.
Are you here? They did a seance.
They did a seance right there.
In the courtroom. I feel like Alan would have ran out.
No, please. I didn't do it, man. Yes, I did.
I honestly feel like maybe that time that he was like, no, I didn't do it, and then he came back and he pleaded guilty, even though it was, like, against his lawyer's advice and everything, it was genuinely because I feel like Teresita was haunting him or something, because there was no other reason to do that.
No, it really had to be, like, the guilt, or, like, she was there, like, you did it.
I mean, if she was channeling herself through this woman, Remy, like, I feel like she...
You know what's insane?
She's a pretty active spirit.
If she channeled herself, like, into the girlfriend, and, like, she starts getting everyone around him. I know you did it. I know you did it.
That would have drove him crazy.
I feel like he probably just would have, like, killed himself or something. Like, he couldn't take it anymore.
Anyone, I think. Yeah.
Because that's just so creepy. Imagine that. Like, if you're just talking to someone, or, like, someone just, droop, I'm another person now. Like, I'm like, yeah. I'm this spirit. And
I'm not, honestly, as Jose, a real one. Because I would have been running out of there.
Yeah. I get so scared, too.
All those things that are, like, slight possession, like, no. Even if it's family. Like, those, like, movies and stuff where the kid gets possessed and they start saying creepy things. Like, no, you're out of here.
I'm out of there. Yeah, no, I'm calling the cops. Like, we're gonna get this figured out, but away from you, that's for sure.
And that's why they called the cops. After Teresita was like, hello, haven't you done anything?
Yeah, they were like, okay, this is
my
real.
Bad.
No, because honestly, like, I get so scared of stuff, and, like, even just creepy dolls looking at you the wrong way, and just sitting there on rocking chairs and staring at you, you're like, this doll's gonna get me one day if I turn my back on them.
Yeah.
So, you know.
But yeah, that was Teresita Basa.
Overall, very interesting. Again, a great way to start off October.
Yeah.
And thankfully, this was it was solved. But was it really? Yeah.
It was solved. The murder was solved, but the way in which it was solved, I feel, is the real unsolved.
Yes, we need to get
part
ghost
of
hunters
this case.
on this.
Yes. We're gonna have to get. I mean, if you watch Supernatural, we're gonna have to get Dean on this. Dean Winchester.
They'll figure it out. They'll find it.
Or the mystery gang.
Yes,
Scooby-Doo.
I feel like they told this would be like right up their alley. Kind
Right?
of
This would be on an episode of Scooby-Doo or something.
Yeah, there's gotta be like some sort of like spin-off of this case on Scooby-Doo. I'm gonna go find that now later. Well,
So yeah.
I think that was it. I hope you enjoyed it, you know, everyone who's listening.
And I hope you look this case up and you decide for yourself. Was it Teresita Basa? Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. So yeah.
All right.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.